class, so we'll go over that first. Potty training, sometimes it helps. I know I've heard Tara do this in some of her classes. She'll just ask like, hey, how's everyone doing with potty training, and kind of go around the room and check in with everybody. I think that's really helpful. One, lets people know they're not alone if their dog's having a hard time. And two, if you go around the room and all of your students say, oh, it's going great, then we don't need to spend a long chunk of time on this, right? If I go around the room and half my students are like, oh my gosh, it's terrible, then I want to give them maybe a little more in-depth information on it. It's going to depend on your group of students. So that can be a helpful kind of start. I think it's nice for class to have a little discussion as a class too. The big thing I like to emphasize is the importance of management. I just noticed the notes on here are terrible. There's like 2 sentences on the instructor's notes for this, but management is the big key for potty training, right? You guys probably know that. There's 3 common times or main times that you always want to take your puppy out to go potty after 3 main things. You guys know what those are?
Like the morning, play, food.
Yeah, sleep, play, food. In the morning is good too. That's sleep, right? So, and sometimes food too, depending on when you feed your dog. So yeah, those are the 3 main ones. After they wake up, after they've been playing or running around being really active, and after they have eaten. I tell people take your dog out more often than you think they need to go, right? We want to stack the deck in their favor. We want to give them way more chances than what they actually need. I don't want to think, my puppy should only have to go every 2 hours, so I'm only going to take him out every 2 hours, right? If I have a brand new puppy, 9-week-old puppy that I just brought home, I want to take them out like every 20-30 minutes if I'm home, and if they're awake, right? I don't always necessarily recommend they wake their puppy up to take them out to potty if they're sleeping. You just want to keep an eye so that as soon as they wake up, you can get them outside. Those are the main times that you want to take them out. And I tell people also, puppy should be one of 3 places at any given time. Outside, direct supervision, or in a confined area, crate, playpen, bathroom with a baby gate, whatever. And that's going to set your puppy up for success too, making sure they're not unsupervised, and if they are unsupervised, that they're in a safe spot where you can clean accidents easily. Yeah.
When people ask you like, oh, well, how long? Like, how long would you say that will last? Like, until what age?
That's a good question. I don't think there's a specific age.
So the dog is successful would be my answer.
Yeah,
and that varies by dog and environment, I guess.
Yep.
I mean,
so you want to like slowly start to give a little more freedom. I would say for all dogs, probably at least 6 months. I would never start to try to give more freedom before that personally. And then from there you're going to gauge and see, right? If my dog's having accidents, as soon as I start to give him a tiny bit more freedom, I'm going to go back to restricting that freedom a little longer because I want to build those habits really solidly. I think it also helps to teach dogs how to ask to go out. That's not really in our like curriculum, but it's something I have people ask about sometimes, and sometimes we'll talk about it in class. Sometimes people will say, hey, she knows to go outside, but she doesn't know how to ask to go outside, right? So they'll be like, oh, I'll notice she peed by the door, but she never asked. And some dogs will naturally do things like bark or jump up on the door when they need to go in. Other dogs need to be taught to do those things. So when people ask that, first thing we want to do is teach them how to do the behavior we want them to use to ask. So that really helps a lot with that question of when do I give them more freedom, is are they asking to go out? Because if they don't have a way to communicate that need, then there's a much higher chance of failure when you give them more freedom. So a lot of people want to do doggy doorbells. And there's different kinds of them. You can have an actual jingle bell that hangs on the door, or you can have the button kind. I tell people if you don't want your dog to scratch your door up, the button kind is better. And first you want to teach the dog how to push that button or ring that bell in a training session. So we do that with shaping, right? Simple, like a nose target. You can start by holding a button or the bell in your hand and reward your dog for any interest in it and build that up. And then once they're ringing it, you're going to hold it closer to the wall, slowly fade your hand out, put it on the wall, and then you're going to ask your dog to ring it right before you take them out every time. So that's how you kind of teach them that process of asking to go out. That helps a ton. And I tell people sometimes for little dogs especially, potty training can take a long time. I think my dachshund, I didn't really give her much freedom till she was like a year old because it just takes a little bit longer for them. Their bladder is tinier. So as humans, right, we're more likely to not get them out often enough, and they're more likely to have an accident. And also littler dogs can be a little more sensitive to the weather and stuff like that, so they have a harder time going potty when it's not so nice outside. But yeah, in short, the answer is kind of it depends, but you're gonna kind of slowly open up more freedom, and then if you notice regression, you're gonna close that freedom up a little bit longer, and then you can try it again later. What do you guys think the